A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. Then Peter stood up with the 11, raised his voice, and proclaimed, "You who are Jews, indeed all of you staying in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen to my words. You who are Israelites, hear these words. Jesus the Nazarene was a man commended to you by God with mighty deeds, wonders, and signs, which God worked through him in your midst, and you yourselves know. This man delivered up by the set plan and foreknowledge of God, you killed, using lawless men to crucify him. But God raised him up, releasing him from the throes of death, because it was impossible for him to be held by it. For David says of him, 'I saw the Lord ever before me. With him at my right hand I shall not be disturbed. Therefore my heart has been glad and my tongue has been exalted. My flesh too will dwell in hope, because you will not abandon my soul to the nether world, nor will you suffer your Holy One to see corruption. You have made known to me the paths of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence. My brothers, one can confidently say to you about the patriarch David that he died and was buried, and his tomb is in our midst to this day. But since he was a prophet and knew that God had sworn an oath to him that he would set one of his descendants upon his throne, he foresaw and spoke of the resurrection of the Christ, that neither was he abandoned to the nether world, nor did his flesh see corruption. God raised this Jesus. Of this we are all witnesses. Exalted at the right hand of God, he received the promise of the Holy Spirit from the Father and poured him forth, as you see and hear." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Oh
A reading from the letter of St. Peter. Beloved, if you invoke as Father him who judges impartially according to each one's works, conduct yourselves with reverence during the time of your sojourning, realizing that you were ransomed from your futile conduct, handed on by your ancestors, not with perishable things like silver or gold, but with precious blood of Christ, as of a spotless, unblemished lamb. He was known before the foundation of the world, but revealed in the final time for you, who through him believe in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Praise to you, Lord.
That very day, the first day of the week, 2 of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus, and they were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them, but their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know of the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, how our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. And besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this took place. Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described, but him they did not see." And he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are! How slow of heart to believe all that the prophets spoke! Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. And it happened that while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the Scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11, and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then the two recounted what had taken place on the way, and how he was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Silence was shattered with a startling shriek from the darkness within. Peekaboo! Jumped back, I looked around for the speaker, but the small office was dark and empty. This particular evening, then it showed itself. Orange bill, sneering, plump yellow body perched on the desk's edge. A talking duck had loudly welcomed me to the administrative assistant's office. Needing to use the copier in the office, before even my hand had released the door, the duck shrieked, "Peekaboo!" Suddenly, watching over every move as I copied the material at hand, the duck stood as a reminder of the unseen presence of God, who sees all, hears all, and always and everywhere present. This is an account of a gentleman that was able to, in one way or another, feel and understand God's presence around him, how God felt. And he was able to acknowledge that through this duck that was in the office, that God was watching him no matter when and where. Today's gospel message asks us to look at the flip side of this recognition theme. While God sees us at all times, we are able to see God always and everywhere present in the encounters and experiences of our lives. Some blessed people have extraordinary moments of revelation when in flesh they knew that God was at their table side. For most of us, though, the challenge is to see the God who hides behind faces so familiar, walks with us on roads so often trodden. Can we see the God who is so familiar as to be invisible? Let a fictional story illustrate for us. The abbot of a monastery was at his wit's end because the brothers in the community just couldn't seem to get along together. Worse, no new members wanted to join because of their reputation for being always at odds with one another. And now the community was dwelling to the point of extinction. In desperation, the abbot visited a wise rabbi and explained the situation to him, asking for advice. The rabbi answered, "Tell the brothers that the Messiah is among them." Returning to the monastery, the abbot assembled the cantankerous community and told them, "Brothers, the rabbi told me that the Messiah is among us." Eyes wide with wonderment, They gazed from face to face. Could it be Brother Edgar? He's so forgetful, but he has a heart of gold. Or maybe it's Brother Simon. He's ornery on the outside, but inside he's mild as a lamb. Or what about Brother Gregory? He never finishes any job he starts, but he has so much fun to be around. The brothers went down the list of community members, wondering who was the one. And then slowly, things began to change. They began to see the face of the Messiah in each other. And slowly, they let go the fetters about the flaws, seeing only the best in faces so familiar. The community began caring and inviting, and soon new members were attracted to it once again. Today's gospel relates to the two of Jesus' disciples. They were journeying to Emmaus soon after the event of the resurrection. And they themselves were kind of dismayed of what had happened. They had a hard time because they thought Jesus was going to be the one that was going to set Israel free. That he was the one that was going to come and take care of them in a way of conquering everyone else. And that's not what had happened. And as they were journeying, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them. But their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. It was only later in the breaking of the bread at table that recognition occurred. It was what he did at the table that revealed his identity. It was the piercing eyes of his attentive care that gave him away. This story is so often ours. The presence of Jesus becoming known only after he had been visible with us for some time on a long, weary road. Then suddenly, some unforeseen event becomes like the ducks snickering. Peekaboo. God tangibly at our very side. As we hear this present within our brothers and sisters, we need to recognize, we need to see. We need to hold fast to recognize Jesus with all that we need, that we might be able to take care of, to befriend, and to share the risen Christ with them.